It was a Sunday afternoon, one of those slow ones where the light filters through the windows just right and the house feels still. I was carrying a basket of laundry to the washer, not really thinking, just going through the motions like always. We'd gotten into a rhythm, Haley and me. Chores split. Weekends mostly quiet. On paper, things looked stable. Normal, even. But I bent down to pick up a sock that had slipped from the pile, and that's when I saw it. A shirt. A man's dress shirt, lying half-crumpled behind the door near the dryer. At first, I didn't think much of it. Just another item that missed the basket. I reached down and grabbed it. The first thing I noticed was the fabric. Soft. Not like my shirts. The second thing, the smell. A very particular cologne clung to it. Sharp and clean with an expensive bite to it. I don't wear cologne. Haley hates most of them, says they give her a headache. And even if I did, this wasn't anything I owned. I don't know how to describe the way that scent hit me, but it wasn't just foreign. It was male. Intentionally masculine. Then I saw the collar. Lipstick. Smudged, deep-colored lipstick. Almost wine red. Definitely bold. And so out of place it made my skin prickle. Haley never wears lipstick like that. If she puts any on at all, it's subtle. Pinkish, sometimes nude tones, nothing like this. I stood there holding it, trying to make the pieces fit. I'd never seen this shirt before. Not in my closet. Not on me. Not even folded in our drawers. It was a stranger's. There was no other way to see it. I didn't call her down. I didn't even mention it right then. I just folded the shirt neatly, set it on top of the washing machine, and walked away. Something told me not to react. Not yet. My hands were steady, but my stomach wasn't. My heart was doing that thing it does when you realize you just stepped into a situation you didn't expect but can't ignore. I went about the rest of the day like normal, or as close to normal as I could manage. Later that evening, we were sitting in the living room. She was scrolling through her phone, legs tucked under her on the couch, a glass of white wine sweating on the table beside her. I watched her for a few seconds before I spoke. "Hey, you find that shirt?" She looked up, eyes unfocused. "What shirt?" "The one in the laundry room," I said. "Button down. Men's. Had lipstick on the collar." I watched her blink, like she needed a moment to calculate. Then she let out a laugh, light, but just a little too sharp. "Oh God! That thing?" She brushed her hair behind her ear, casual. "That must be from last weekend. You know, when I went to that team-building thing with work. We all stayed at that lodge upstate, remember?" I nodded slowly. I remembered. She was gone for 3 nights, said it was mandatory. She came home with tired eyes and a suitcase that smelled like hotel detergent. Someone probably mixed it up with my laundry when we were packing. I didn't even notice it got tossed in. She shrugged. Guys were throwing their stuff all over the place. I raised an eyebrow. "And the lipstick?" She smiled again. Smaller this time, almost patronizing. "I don't know, Cody. Maybe someone was making out in the hallway and it rubbed off. Or maybe it was already there. What do you want me to say? It's not mine and it's definitely not yours. So obviously it's someone else's mistake." I waited for her to ask the logical question. "What shirt?" Or "Can I see it?" But she didn't. She had an answer locked and ready. No curiosity. No confusion. Then she turned it back on me. "You seem kind of intense about this. Are you okay?" she asked, tilting her head slightly, the way she does when she's trying to read me. "You're not actually upset over this, are you?" I hesitated. "I mean," she added, tone softening just enough to sound sincere. "I get it. The lipstick thing is weird. But come on, Cody, really? You're not usually this suspicious." That stung a little, because she was right, I wasn't. I'd always trusted her. Maybe too much. I let her have space. I didn't question the extra meetings, the last-minute weekend retreats, the after-hours calls. I didn't hover. I didn't ask. Because I believed that's what good partners do, trust. But this wasn't about paranoia. This was about instinct. Something about her answer felt wrong. Too quick. Too rehearsed. And the way she dismissed it so easily, so confidently, it made my skin crawl. I didn't push it, though. Just nodded and let it go, for now. Later that night, after she went to bed, I stood in the doorway of the laundry room, staring at the shirt again. It was still sitting on the machine, folded the way I left it. Silent. Incriminating. That's when it hit me. This wasn't carelessness on her part. It was timing. She hadn't expected me to do the laundry that day. Hadn't counted on me finding it. She hadn't had time to cover her tracks. It was a mistake. Her mistake. And I was supposed to ignore it. But something had clicked inside me. Something I didn't know was there until that moment. A quiet, burning certainty that everything I thought I knew about our life together, our routines, our trust, our history might not be as solid as I believed. It wasn't proof. Not yet. But it was the first crack in the glass. And I couldn't stop looking at it. The shirt never came up again. After that night, it disappeared literally. I went to grab it the next morning, thinking maybe I'd put it in a bag, or maybe I imagined how bold the lipstick had looked. But it was gone. Not in the washer. Not in the dryer. Not folded with the clean clothes. Just gone. I asked her casually, "Did you end up washing that shirt?" "What shirt?" "The one we talked about yesterday." "Oh," she said, as if only just remembering. "Yeah. I think I tossed it. Figured it didn't belong to either of us. No sense in keeping it, right?" "Right?" That was the moment I started paying closer attention. Looking back, I wonder how long the signs had been there, how many red flags I'd brushed aside as stress or bad timing. It wasn't like there was some dramatic change all at once. It was more like erosion. Subtle. Slow. But undeniable once you really saw it. We hadn't been physically close in a while, but it wasn't the kind of distance that starts with a fight or a betrayal. It was the quiet kind, the kind that builds over months. Haley started going to bed earlier. I'd come into the bedroom and she'd already be curled up, back turned, pretending to scroll through her phone but really just avoiding eye contact. If I reached for her, she'd flinch slightly, then catch herself and mumble something like, "I'm just so tired." Always tired. And if I asked if something was wrong, she'd say, "No, just long days lately." Sometimes she'd smile weakly and tell me she loved me, but it sounded more like a habit than a truth. The affection that used to come easily, the inside jokes, the small touches, the way she'd reach for my hand in the car, vanished. At first, I thought maybe I had changed. Maybe I wasn't doing enough. So I started making more effort. I cleaned more. Took her car in for service without being asked. Made her coffee in the mornings. She said thank you, sure. But something was off in her voice. Almost like she didn't know how to respond, like she was waiting for me to stop trying. Then came the phone habits. Subtle but jarring once you start looking for them. She used to leave her phone face up on the table without a second thought. Now it was always face down. Or in her pocket. Notifications stopped lighting up the screen. When I asked about it once, she said she changed her settings because she was getting too many annoying pop-ups. She laughed, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then her password changed. No big deal, right? We all change passwords. Except she didn't tell me. Not like before. She used to tell me everything, share her logins without a second thought. We were open like that. Now, it felt like a wall had gone up and I wasn't meant to ask what was on the other side. She started traveling more too. Always for work, she said. Coaching events, industry meetups, staff retreats. I'd get these texts, flight delayed. Love you. Or just landed. Exhausted already. But I noticed something strange one weekend. She told me she was working from a cafe across town to finish up a client proposal. Said it was too loud in the house. I didn't think much of it until I stopped by the place a few days later, only to find it had been closed for renovations for nearly 2 weeks. I didn't tell her I knew. I just logged it away. Like a puzzle piece. Because that's what it had started to feel like, a puzzle. The shirt. The lipstick. The sudden coldness in our bed. The cafe lie. Her guarded phone. Her shrinking warmth. All of it. And when I lined it up, the shape it formed was obvious. I just didn't want to admit it. One night, I asked if she wanted to watch a movie with me. Something light. A comedy she used to love. She barely looked up from her phone. Not really in the mood. Want to go for a walk instead? I'm tired. You've been tired a lot lately. That made her pause. She looked at me, then back at her phone. Work's been intense, Cody. It's not personal. It feels personal. I don't know what you want me to say. That was it. No reassurance. No effort to bridge the space growing between us. Just a quiet sigh and an unspoken suggestion that I was being too sensitive. Like I was reading into nothing. But it wasn't nothing. I felt it. In her absence. In her presence. In the way she seemed to be somewhere else even when she was sitting right next to me. And still, I tried. I planned a weekend getaway, just the two of us. I booked a cabin by the lake where we used to go in the early years. She looked surprised when I told her. That sounds nice, she said slowly, like she didn't quite believe it. You free the second weekend of next month? She bit her lip. That's the same weekend as the regional training seminar. I already promised I'd help lead it. Of course she had. I let it go. But my mind didn't. And neither did the questions. Who was she texting all the time? Why did she go quiet when I walked into the room? Why had she stopped sharing the little things, what she ate for lunch, who annoyed her at work, the kind of stories she used to tell me over wine and takeout? Something was broken. And maybe the scariest part wasn't even the idea that she might be cheating. It was the thought that she might already be gone. Emotionally, mentally already checked out of our marriage, out of our life. Keeping up the shell of it for convenience or comfort or until she found a cleaner way to break things off. I started staying up later. Lying awake while she slept, trying to listen to my own instincts. I'd never considered myself paranoid. But now it felt like my gut was the only honest thing left in our house. I watched her leave one morning, dressed sharp, hair done just right, lipstick applied, subtle this time. Not that deep wine red from the shirt. Something soft. Natural. I asked where she was going. Just to meet with some clients. I almost asked for specifics. Almost asked to come with her. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I waited until she left and then I went into the office. I sat at her desk and stared at her computer. Locked. Of course. I didn't try to guess the password. I just sat there. And that's when I remembered something else, an old tablet. Buried in one of the drawers upstairs. A tablet we hadn't used in over a year. One we used to sync with her phone back when we both traveled a lot and needed to keep calendars aligned. I wondered if it still worked. If it still remembered her. And if it did, what would I find? That thought kept me company all day. And by the time night fell, I had already decided. I wasn't going to confront her yet. I was going to learn the truth first. And when I did, I wouldn't ask for permission to be angry. It was late when I finally pulled the old tablet out of the drawer. I hadn't touched it in over a year, maybe longer. Dust clung to the edges. The battery was long dead. I plugged it into the wall, not expecting much, but after a few minutes, the screen flickered to life. The home screen looked like a time capsule. Apps we didn't use anymore. An outdated background of the two of us taken during a weekend hike. We looked happy, sunlight on our faces, wind in our hair, her head leaning against my shoulder. I remember that day. It was one of the last times I remember feeling connected to her. I tapped the Photos app. It hesitated for a second, then began syncing. And just like that, her world started spilling onto the screen. At first, it was nothing alarming. Group *TS at work events. A few photos of coffee cups and hotel rooms, standard stuff from business trips. But as I scrolled, a new folder appeared at the top of the gallery. It was labeled simply H. That was her first initial. The air changed in the room. My fingers hovered over it. I tapped. The folder opened to a grid of thumbnails. Dozens of them. Some were grainy, clearly taken quickly, maybe in hotel mirrors or while boarding flights. But others were crystal clear. Intentional. Framed. In * mate. The first one showed her sitting on the edge of a hotel bed, dressed in a robe, a glass of wine in hand. She wasn't looking at the camera, but the expression on her face told a story I wasn't part of. The second showed her and a man, tall, maybe early 40s, salt and pepper beard, posing in front of a mirror. He stood behind her, his hands resting on her hips. She smiled. Not the polite smile she wore in family photos. This was something else. Something private. I stared at that image for a long time. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were telling me. But there it was. Her body against his. Their reflection in the mirror. Her phone in her hand, she was the one taking the picture. And then came the video. I almost didn't tap it. Part of me wanted to throw the tablet across the room. But I needed to see. I needed truth even if it burned. It started innocently enough, just the two of them walking into a hotel room laughing about something muffled. She set the phone down on the nightstand, the angle tilted. It wasn't a mistake. She knew it was recording. He kissed her on the shoulder. She turned, wrapped her arms around him, whispered something too low to hear. They weren't rushing. It wasn't lust in the frantic way I feared. It was something worse, comfort. Familiarity. She leaned into him and said, "Feels like coming home." That line gutted me. Because she used to say that to me. I paused the video. Closed the tablet. My hands were shaking. It wasn't just physical. It wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a full-fledged, multi-city affair. Documented. Preserved. Hidden in plain sight in a folder with her own name on it. The betrayal wasn't just in her body, it was in her choices. Her planning. Her carelessness. I opened the gallery again and scrolled through the dates. The photos went back 6 months. 6. That meant she was already in it when we went on our anniversary trip to Lake Crescent. When we sat across from each other, toasting a decade together, she was already living this other life. There were photos of her in San Diego, Atlanta, Portland, always with him. Different hotel rooms, different clothes, same smile. They looked like a couple, like we used to. My chest felt hollow. I got up, walked to the sink, and splashed cold water on my face. I wanted to scream, to punch something. But instead, I just leaned over the sink and let the silence crush me. It wasn't just the act of cheating. It was how complete the deception was. The travel expenses I'd covered. The time I'd spent home alone with dinner getting cold. The way she'd roll her eyes when I asked if we could schedule a date night, saying she was too swamped, too overwhelmed. Meanwhile, she was making time for someone else. Someone who got the version of her I hadn't seen in months. And what hurt most? She looked happy in those photos. Free. Light. Like she was exactly where she wanted to be. And none of it included me. I went back to the tablet and started taking *TS every photo, every timestamp, every message thread I could find. She hadn't deleted them. Maybe she thought I'd never find them. Or maybe she just didn't care anymore. The messages weren't long, but they were clear. Him, next weekend's room is already booked. Can't wait to see you. Her, wish I could stay longer this time. Feels like the real world when I'm with you. Him, you deserve better than that guy. Her, he's just safe. You're alive. Every word was a cut. A sharp, deep incision into everything I thought we were. She had rewritten our history behind my back. Made me into the background character in her story. I wasn't her partner. I was her fallback. Her safety net. Her financial buffer. I sat in the dark for hours cataloging every detail. Not because I needed revenge, but because I needed to understand. I needed to know where I stood. At some point, the sun started to rise. The first light of morning leaked in through the curtains, soft and golden like it didn't know the world had shifted overnight. And then I heard her car in the driveway. She was home. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I powered off the tablet and slid it back into the drawer. When she walked in, she looked tired. Makeup faded. Hair pulled back. Morning, she said, kicking off her shoes. Hey, I replied, steady. She kissed my cheek. A peck. Mechanical. I'm gonna shower, she said. I watched her disappear down the hallway, the echo of her footsteps fading. And all I could think was, who are you right now? I waited until I heard the water running before I let out a long breath. I wasn't going to explode. I wasn't going to cry. I wasn't going to give her the performance she was probably bracing for. Instead, I was going to move in silence. Gather every piece of evidence. Prepare for every outcome. She built a secret life on my dime. On my patience. On the years I gave her. Now it was my turn to build something of my own. Not out of revenge, but out of truth. And when the moment came to confront her, I would be ready not as the broken man she expected, but as someone who finally knew the weight of what had been done. And who no longer carried it alone. It's strange how quiet betrayal can be. You'd think it would feel loud, like something shattering inside your chest. But after I watched that video and read those messages, it wasn't rage that came. Not even heartbreak, not right away. It was clarity. Cold, still, undeniable. Like someone finally turned on the lights in a room I'd been stumbling through for months. She came out of the shower that morning humming. Humming. Wrapped in a towel, hair damp, like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't just come home from a weekend pretending I didn't exist. I stood at the kitchen counter stirring my coffee, watching her like a stranger in my own house. You're quiet today, she said. I smiled. Didn't sleep great. Yeah, she sighed like we shared a burden. Same. Same. I wanted to laugh. The kind of laugh that sounds more like breaking. But I didn't. I played it cool. I kissed her on the forehead when she left, said drive safe, and watched her back out of the driveway with the same calm I'd used to wave goodbye to a neighbor. Because I wasn't going to confront her, not yet. Exploding might have satisfied the emotional itch, but it wouldn't help me reclaim control. And that was what I needed. Not revenge. Not drama. Just control over my own life, which she'd quietly stolen while smiling at me across the dinner table. That morning I made a list. Literally a notepad on the kitchen table. I wrote, start here, and underlined it twice. First item, evidence. I spent hours going back through the tablet. *TS. Timestamps. I even synced the tablet with my computer and backed everything up to a private drive. I opened our shared calendar and cross-checked her trips with the dates in the photos. Each conference lined up perfectly with another city, another hotel, another man's arms. She had left a pattern. Clean, precise. The deception had structure. Almost admiration-worthy in how methodically she maintained it. But now so did I. Second item, finances. I'd always handled most of our bills, but Haley had access to everything: joint checking, shared credit cards, even a couple accounts I opened when we were planning to renovate the guest bathroom. No more. By the end of the day, I had frozen the joint card and moved the automatic payments for our mortgage and utilities to a new account, one in my name only. I opened a secure checking account and rerouted my paycheck. It took a few phone calls and a bit of paperwork, but it felt good. Like rolling back a tide that had crept too far in. I didn't empty the joint account. I wasn't going to rob her. But I moved enough out to cover what was mine, my paychecks, my savings, the deposits I'd made on the house. She could have the leftovers. Fair. Clean. Undeniable. Next, I called my buddy James. He's a lawyer, family law. We hadn't spoken in a while, but I knew he'd shoot me straight. "You sure?" he asked after I gave him the basics. "Absolutely." "Then let's get to work." We scheduled a meeting. He told me what to gather: marriage certificate, financial statements, joint assets. I already had most of it. "You don't have to file right away," he said. "But you need to be ready when the time comes." I appreciated that. He wasn't pushing for drama. He just wanted me protected. That night, Haley came home late again. She kissed me on the cheek, smelled faintly of something floral and expensive. Not the brand she used to wear. "You already eat?" she asked. "Yeah," I lied. "Wasn't that hungry." "Sorry." We had dinner after the seminar. It ran long. I nodded. She didn't elaborate. I didn't ask. I went upstairs and opened my laptop, reviewing my list. Third item, our daughter. Natalie. 8 years old. Smart, intuitive, and already asking questions. "Why isn't mom home for bedtime anymore?" "She's working, kiddo." She used to read with me every night. I know. That had to change. I called the school the next morning and updated the emergency contact list. Removed Haley's name. Added my cell. Not because I didn't trust her with our daughter, but because I couldn't trust her with me. If she wanted to live a double life, fine. But she wasn't going to use my routines, my resources, my structure to hold it together. Not anymore. That afternoon, I visited a property I'd seen listed for rent just outside town. Small apartment. 2 bedrooms. Nothing fancy, but clean and quiet. I spoke with the landlord, toured the unit, and signed a 6-month lease on the spot. When I told Haley I was staying with a friend for a bit to sort through some things, she barely blinked. "Oh," she said. "Are you okay?" "Just need space." "Okay," she said again. No questions. No protests. Almost like she expected it. Maybe she was relieved. I packed light, just clothes, essentials, a few books, my laptop. Left most of our stuff at the house. I wasn't fleeing. I was stepping out. And it felt good. That night, I sat on the balcony of my new place, cracked open a beer, and listened to the silence. No laundry hum. No clicking heels on hardwood. No false smiles. Just me and the awareness that, for the first time in months, my thoughts were my own. There's a point in grief, I think, where sadness becomes exhaustion. And after that? Movement. You stop hoping for a fix and start building an exit. That's where I was now. The next morning, I took Natalie to school. Just me and her. She noticed. "Where's Mom?" She had a meeting. "Are you coming back home soon?" I hesitated. "I'll be around. Promise." I packed her lunch extra carefully. Wrote a note on the napkin like I used to. "You're my favorite. Be kind. Love, Dad." Later that day, I met with James again. Showed him the files I'd compiled. He whistled under his breath. "This is solid, man." I nodded. "You still sure you want to hold off?" "Yes," I said. "Not yet. But I want to be ready when it happens." "Understood. Let me know when." When I got back to the apartment that night, I sat down and looked at the framed photo I brought with me. The 3 of us, me, Haley, and Natalie, at a beach somewhere, all sunburned and grinning. It felt like another life. I didn't cry. I didn't get angry. I just turned the photo around, face down. Because I wasn't that man anymore. I wasn't her background character. I wasn't her crutch. And I wasn't going to be the one holding it together while she built her escape hatch. I was out now. And with every quiet step I took, I felt a little more free. It was 3 days before she reached out. Not a call. Not a text. Just a knock on the door. I had just gotten back from taking Natalie to school. Grocery bags in one arm. Keys still in the other. The knock wasn't frantic or heavy. It was light. Calculated. I knew it was her before I even looked through the peephole. Haley. She was standing there in a beige coat. Hair neatly tied back. sunglasses perched on top of her head like she'd come from a meeting. She didn't look panicked. She didn't look emotional. Just composed, like she had practiced this. I opened the door and stepped aside. "You looking for something?" "I just want to talk," she said. "I won't stay long." I didn't answer, just let her in. She glanced around the place as she walked past me. Not in judgment, more like assessment. Measuring the space. Taking inventory. It irritated me more than I expected. She stopped in the middle of the living room and folded her arms. "You've been avoiding me. You've been avoiding a lot longer than I have," I said calmly, setting the grocery bag on the kitchen counter. She took a breath. "Look, I know things have been strained." That made me laugh. "Strained, right?" She winced at my tone but pushed forward. "You moved out without even telling me why." I leaned against the counter. "You want to talk about honesty?" "I'm trying to talk now," she said, still level, still measured. "I'm not here to fight. I just want to know what you're thinking." "You're not here because you're worried about what I'm thinking," I replied. "You're here because you don't know what I know. And that scares you." That hit something. Her eyes narrowed slightly, but she didn't break. "Are you seeing someone?" she asked. That one caught me off guard. "No," I said flatly. "And it's kind of hilarious you'd ask that." Her lips parted slightly. "I'm just trying to understand." "No, Haley," I said. "You're trying to redirect. You've spent the last year living a separate life and treating me like your fallback. Now that I'm no longer standing still, you're trying to figure out how much power you still have." She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize either. Instead, she reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "I brought your insurance card," she said. "You left it at the house." I stared at the envelope, then at her. "That why you really came over?" "No," she admitted. "But I didn't want to come empty-handed." "Why now?" I asked. "Why are you here, Haley?" She hesitated. And then, for the first time, her composure cracked. Just a hair. "Because I don't know what this is yet," she said. "I don't know what we are. We're people who used to be married in every way that mattered," I said. "Now we're strangers who live in separate homes and share custody of a daughter. That's what we are." She swallowed. "So it's over." "I didn't say that," I replied. "But it stopped being a partnership a long time ago. And I'm not doing the emotional labor for two people anymore." Her eyes glossed. She didn't cry. But it was there, the waterline, the hesitation, the moment where she wanted to let go. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. But then I remembered that video. The way she smiled for another man. The way she said, "Feels like coming home," to someone who wasn't me. "You knew I was pulling away," she said suddenly. "And you didn't do anything to stop it." I stared at her. "You're blaming me?" "I'm saying, maybe I felt like you gave up on us." "No," I said, walking closer. "I was there every day. I made space for you, gave you trust, covered for your absences. You didn't feel abandoned, Haley. You felt unchallenged. You wanted risk. You wanted thrill. And instead of talking to me, you sought it out behind my back." "I made mistakes," she whispered. "But I'm here now, trying." "You're here because I stopped playing along." She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it again. For a moment there was silence. Then she picked up her bag. "I'll go." I didn't stop her. Before she left, she turned and looked back at me. "Cody, do you still love me?" I wanted to lie. I wanted to say yes, just to end the moment gently. But I didn't. "I'm still figuring that out," I said. She nodded. Then she left. Over the next week, I saw her more than I had in the last 2 months combined. She happened to be at the cafe I liked downtown. Same cafe, same morning, 3 times in a row. She never said hi, just sat near the front, pretending to be on her laptop. Then I spotted her car in the grocery store parking lot, twice, different days. Once at my gym, parked 2 spaces down. She never approached me, but I felt her presence like a signal. She wasn't done yet. She was circling, testing boundaries, seeing what she could get away with. I didn't engage, didn't text, didn't take the bait. The emotional cord between us had snapped. I could feel it. Like I'd been pulling my weight for so long that the moment I let go, the whole thing collapsed. And yet she kept showing up. The kicker came when I got a call from her sister, Emily. "Hey," she said cautiously. "I know this is out of line, but Haley told me you left. Said you were cold. Uncommunicative. Is that so?" "I don't know what's going on," Emily said, "but I've never known you to be that guy." "Thanks," I said. "That means more than you think." "She's spinning something," she added. "I can tell." I wasn't surprised. Haley didn't like being out of control. And right now, that's what she was adrift. She couldn't anchor to me anymore, so she was lashing out sideways. Planting narratives. Testing who'd believe them. But the difference now? I didn't care. She could paint me as a villain, a ghost, a monster if she wanted. I knew who I was. And for the first time, that was enough. At night, I started sleeping better. Not great, but better. The silence of the apartment felt less like loneliness and more like freedom. I made actual meals. I started running again. Took Natalie to the park, just the two of us, and watched her climb the monkey bars with the spark in her eyes I hadn't seen in a while. "You seem happier," she said once as we were walking home. "Yeah," I told her. "I think I am." That weekend, I got a message from Haley. "Can we talk?" "I'll come by. I won't stay long." I stared at the screen. My thumb hovered over the reply button. But I didn't answer. She had her turn. Now it was mine. About a week after her last message, I got a DM from someone named Troy. Said he used to work with Haley, knew her from back when she started at her firm. He didn't mince words, told me Haley had been spreading stories, saying I'd isolated her, controlled her, made her life emotionally suffocating. "She's trying to make you look like the bad guy," he said. "But people are starting to question her version." Then came Lauren. She reached out saying she'd recently been dating a man she later learned was the same guy from Haley's photos, the one in the hotel rooms. Lauren had receipts. Literally. Pictures, messages, even a voice note where Haley called me safe, said she married me for stability. That word stuck. Stability. Not love. Not loyalty. She didn't choose me. She used me. I visited the hill where I proposed. Brought the last photo we'd taken together as a family and let the wind have it. There was no ceremony. No tears. Just release. I saw Natalie more. Cooked more. Slept better. I started journaling again, walking trails I used to love, and for the first time, I didn't feel hollow. Then I met Clara. She owned a used bookstore near the river. Soft-spoken, thoughtful, the kind of person who asked questions without needing answers. She didn't dig into my past, just met me where I was. And that's when I realized I was never meant to be a fallback plan. I was meant to be a whole person building a life on purpose, not out of habit. Now, I'm not standing still. I'm steering. Free.